Last night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement.
More details have been released as to why Molly Qerim abruptly quit ESPN. And when I say abruptly quit, I mean she left work, I think it was on Monday, and she never times. When you have someone abruptly quit a job, they're not leaving on the best terms. Normally, it's polite to give your employer some kind of notice.
Imagine waking up to find out that Molly Qerim, the woman who held ESPN's First Take together for over a decade, the one who stood toe-to-toe with Stephen A. Smith while taming his fiery outbursts and keeping the show from exploding into chaos, had suddenly vanished. No farewell episode, no countdown, not even the courtesy of a 2-week notice. One day she was there, and the next she was gone, leaving fans, coworkers, and industry insiders scrambling to figure out what went wrong. ESPN tried to frame it as a normal parting of ways, talking about personal growth and new opportunities, but nobody was buying that polished PR language. The whispers were too loud, the timing was too suspicious, and the tension between Molly and Stephen A. had been simmering for months. This wasn't just a fresh start, this was a scandal waiting to erupt. And as new details surface, it looks like Molly didn't just leave, she may have been pushed out, set up, and possibly preparing to strike back in a way ESPN never saw coming. Before we dive into this messy saga of betrayal, power plays, and whispered lawsuits, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is about to get darker than anything you've seen on ESPN's debate desk.
A lot of times, some of these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all business, but it's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her, but in the end, she made a decision.
Well, let's remember, wasn't it just last week Stephen A. was on air bragging about the people he stood up for to get paid, and how many, Cam, I did it for Shannon Sharp, and I did it for this person and that person. And when I look at the abrupt, like, nah, I'm not coming into work tomorrow,
Yeah.
that also is like, maybe there's pointing a finger at Stephen A.
For years, Molly was the glue holding First Take together. She was the steady presence between Stephen A. Smith and whichever debate partner he was facing that day, whether it was Max Kellerman, Skip Bayless, or Shannon Sharp. She kept the shouting matches from spiraling, balanced the egos, and gave fans a reason to tune in beyond the theatrics. To many, she was irreplaceable. So when she suddenly resigned, fans were left stunned. ESPN's official story was simple. Molly wanted a change, Molly wanted to grow, Molly wanted new challenges. But let's be real, that's the exact same corporate goodbye they've rolled out 100 times before. In the world of TV, when someone disappears without warning, it's almost never amicable. It means something snapped. And with Molly, the whispers began immediately. Was she forced out to make way for Malika Andrews? Did she walk because of Stephen A.'s influence? Or was this about something much more dangerous? Something ESPN doesn't want the public to know? Those questions only grew louder when a surprising figure stepped forward. A woman claiming to be Stephen A.'s ex-girlfriend.
Molly Qerim, she, yesterday when we talked, we knew that she was leaving, but we didn't know she was leaving, like, immediately. Yeah, which is an indication that, man, this thing's a bit more complicated than just they couldn't settle on the money. It just seems more serious. She's off the show.
She was quitting right now. Both ESPN and Molly Qerim, they are trying to polish the They're trying to make this look like an amicable divorce. And look, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Maybe they couldn't come to an agreement and they agreed to amicably part ways. I'm more interested in...
She dropped allegations that flipped the story upside down. According to her, Molly wasn't just leaving, she had been scheming all along. The ex accused Molly of leaking confidential contract details, whispering rumors to rivals, and even planting false harassment stories that could have ended Stephen A.'s career. The alleged motive? Pure jealousy and resentment. Stephen A. had just locked in another multi-million-dollar contract worth upwards of $20 million a year. While Molly's paycheck reportedly hovered around $2-3 million, the ex painted Molly as bitter, ambitious, and desperate to prove she deserved more. She even went as far as to say, Molly wants Stephen A.'s money without Stephen A.'s talent. Those words spread like wildfire, leaving fans divided. Was Molly the villain orchestrating a takedown?
Whether she goes to FS1 or launches her own show on YouTube, I wish Molly Qerim nothing but the best. I don't want to see her fail, but at the same time, I don't see a path to success. It is hard to build an audience by yourself. It's hard to build and sustain an audience when it's just you.
Or was this an ex trying to drag both Molly and Stephen A into the mud for her own reasons? Either way, the accusations added fuel to a fire. ESPN desperately wanted to keep quiet. The thing is, you didn't even have to dig deep to see the cracks. Fans had already noticed the tension between Molly and Stephen A bubbling on air. Clips started going viral, showing them taking thinly veiled shots at each other. Molly would joke about how she couldn't even go to the bathroom without Stephen A hovering, and Stephen A would clap back with snide remarks about her influence on the show. At first, viewers brushed it off as playful banter, but the more you watched, the less funny it seemed. It started to look like a partnership falling apart in real time. The smiles were forced, the laughs were hollow, and the digs started hitting too close to home. Fans began dissecting every sideways glance, every sigh, every sarcastic comment, treating the show like a true crime documentary where the suspects were sitting right in front of us. Was this really just entertainment, or were we watching the collapse of a working relationship? And then came the bombshell that took the story from bad to explosive. According to multiple sources, just weeks before Molly walked off for good, she and Stephen A had a screaming match at ESPN's Connecticut headquarters, so intense that security was called to break it up. Some say Stephen A accused her of betrayal, others claim Molly fired back with accusations of sabotage, but either way, the fight left everyone in the building shaken. This wasn't the kind of disagreement you laugh off the next morning. It was scorched earth. Producers scrambled to cover it up, but word leaked out. Suddenly, Molly's abrupt exit made sense. You don't come back from a fight like that, not when egos this big are involved. And once security is pulling people apart, the writing is on the wall. Someone has to go. But ESPN wasn't about to let the story get out of control. They put on their best corporate mask, flooding the press with glowing statements about Molly's contributions and carefully chosen phrases about turning the page. Meanwhile, Malika Andrews, one of the network's rising stars, signed a massive new contract. The timing couldn't have been more suspicious. Fans immediately connected the dots. Was Molly forced out so Malika could step in? Was this all part of ESPN's master plan to reshape its image while keeping Stephen A protected at all costs? Executives swore it was coincidence, but in Hollywood and sports media alike, nothing is ever just coincidence. Stephen A didn't make things easier. On his show, he mourned Molly's departure, saying he was quite sad, but then he shut the door with a cryptic statement, "The details are none of y'all business." Do I have an idea? Of course. Am I going to share it? No. For a man who makes his living by talking, the sudden silence was deafening. It wasn't respect, it was fear. Stephen A doesn't stay quiet unless the truth is radioactive. What was he hiding? Was he protecting Molly? Protecting himself? Or protecting the entire network? His refusal to clarify only fueled speculation, making the mystery bigger and the whispers louder. And that's when the most dangerous rumor began to circulate: Molly's blackmail folder. Multiple insiders whispered that Molly had been keeping a secret stash of sensitive information, emails, voice memos, recordings, even gossip about top executives. It was her insurance policy, her way of making sure she wouldn't be chewed up and spit out by the machine. If true, that folder is a ticking time bomb. Think about it. Contract disputes, private complaints, off-the-record conversations, and possibly dirt on Stephen A himself. What happens if that leaks? ESPN could be facing its biggest scandal yet, and every exec would be scrambling to protect their own reputation. The fact that ESPN rushed to smooth over Molly's exit without a fight suggests they knew she had leverage. They didn't want her detonating the bomb. The money fight only made things worse. As Stephen A boasted about getting people paid, Molly allegedly wanted her own raise. She had been a steady part of ESPN since 2006, hosting one of the network's biggest shows. But while Stephen A pulled in $20 million, Molly reportedly wanted closer to $10 million to reflect her value. Some execs felt her demands were out of proportion, others saw it as a natural response to Stephen A's ballooning contract. Either way, it added gasoline to the fire. In a network already divided over who deserves what, Molly's push for more money may have been the final straw. Fans are still divided. Some see Molly as a victim, forced out by a hostile workplace where Stephen A called all the shots. Others see her as a manipulator who overplayed her hand, underestimated the network's loyalty to Stephen A, and lost. But either way, ESPN is left in chaos. The network that once thrived on fiery debates is now consumed by whispers of betrayal, sabotage, and power struggles. Staffers wonder who will be next. Producers are looking over their shoulders, and Stephen A's growing influence has everyone nervous. The louder his paychecks get, the quieter his co-hosts seem to become. So where does that leave Molly? Some speculate she'll jump to Fox Sports, others think she'll launch her own independent show, but the bigger question is, will she take her secrets with her or unleash them? If the rumored lawsuit moves forward, ESPN may be forced into the kind of spotlight it can't control. The amicable exit storyline won't hold up in court, and if the blackmail folder ever sees the light of day, we're not just talking about Molly and Stephen A. We're talking about executives, producers, and possibly even other anchors caught in the crossfire. And then there's Stephen A. Smith. For a man who thrives on confrontation, his silence says it all. He's not denying, he's not confirming, he's just letting the rumor mill spin. And that raises the scariest question of all. What if the truth is worse than any of the theories? What if Stephen A's silence isn't about protecting Molly, it's about protecting himself? Fans are already dissecting every look, every word, every awkward laugh on First Take for clues. They're treating the show less like a debate stage and more like a crime scene, looking for evidence of who knew what and when. The truth is, ESPN is standing on a fault line. Molly's departure may look like just another shakeup, but insiders know it's something bigger. It's a symptom of a network consumed by power struggles, inflated egos, and the pressure of declining ratings. And if Molly's rumored lawsuit moves forward, or if her alleged blackmail folder leaks, the fallout could be devastating. Contracts could crumble, anchors could walk, executives could step down. This isn't just a scandal, it's a ticking time bomb, and everyone's waiting to see when it goes off. But here's where the story takes an even more dangerous turn, because whispers suggest Molly isn't walking away quietly. Some insiders claim she's already been in touch with lawyers, weighing the possibility of filing a lawsuit not just against ESPN, but also against individuals who she believes sabotaged her career. If that's true, then everything ESPN has tried to bury could suddenly come bubbling to the surface in court documents. Imagine sworn testimony about private conversations, leaked emails being entered into evidence, and executives forced to answer uncomfortable questions under oath. For a network already trying to maintain its image in the face of rising competition, that kind of public spectacle could be catastrophic. And if Molly really does have that rumored folder of receipts, a lawsuit wouldn't just be a case, it would be an expose, a chance to drag every hidden skeleton out of the closet. Fans are already speculating whether Stephen A. himself might be named, and if so, what kind of testimony he'd be forced to give. Could Molly be preparing to burn down the empire on her way out, ensuring that if she falls, she doesn't fall alone? And even if she doesn't go the legal route, the possibilities remain endless. What if Molly decides to sit down for a tell-all interview? What if she writes a book, launches her own platform, or even partners with ESPN's rivals to air her side of the story uncensored? The ripple effects would be massive. ESPN might think it closed the door on her chapter, but Molly could easily kick that door wide open, and this time she'd be holding the microphone. Every hint Stephen A. has dropped, every cryptic comment he's made, would suddenly be re-examined through her lens, and the narrative could flip completely. Was Molly the manipulator? Or was she the one manipulated by a system that used her for over a decade, and then discarded her the moment she asked for more? That's the cliffhanger hanging over all of this. Because in the world of sports media, the debate doesn't always happen on TV. It happens in the shadows, in courtrooms, in boardrooms, and in the whispered secrets that eventually find their way into the light. And the scariest part? This story isn't over. It's just beginning.